You won.
But everyone is still skint.
That, of course, was the TV show. But the truth, you couldn't make it up. The extraordinary row about claims the government wanted to stall compensation to sub-postmasters fizzled through Westminster today.
No, my lord.
The Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, had accused the sacked chair of the Post Office, Mr Staunton, of telling porkies when he gave an excoriating newspaper interview over the weekend.
I think we as a board will have our hands full going forward.
That was Staunton giving evidence to a select committee last year. Prime Minister's questions today, and Keir Starmer dared Rishi Sunak call Staunton a liar again.
Mr Speaker, would the Prime Minister be prepared personally to repeat the allegation made by his Business Secretary that the former chair of the Post Office is lying when he says he was told to go slow on compensation for postmasters and limp to the next election?
Mr Speaker, as the Business Secretary said on Monday, she asked Mr Staunton to step down after serious concerns were raised. She set out the reasons for this and the full background in the House earlier this week. But importantly, we have also taken unprecedented steps to ensure that victims of the Horizon scandal do receive compensation as swiftly as possible and in full. Making sure that victims receive justice and compensation remains our #1 priority, and we will shortly bring forward legislation to address this matter soon.
A memo written by Staunton a year ago detailing a conversation he'd had with a top civil servant was published today by several media outlets. Staunton wrote, "She said we needed to know that in the run-up to the election there was no appetite to rip off the Band-Aid. Now was not the time for dealing with long-term issues. We needed a plan to hobble up to the election." The government says Staunton has it all wrong, and their conversation was about general Post Office finances. In the last hour, the civil servant he mentioned wrote to the Business Secretary, insisting she'd checked her own memos, and at no point had she suggested or implied that compensation should be delayed. For the record, just 33 claims have now been fully settled out of the 938 postmasters convicted. Chris Head, who was mentioned by Starmer in PMQs today, is still waiting for his payout. He is not impressed.
This is about people's lives, isn't it? And obviously that seems to be forgotten sometimes when you have this kind of circus kind of performance at in PMQs sometimes, and it's just not fair. I mean, this has gone on far too long, and we need to bring it to a resolution.
The Postmasters' unfinished campaign for justice, which has now embroiled one of the government's most senior ministers, and still so many victims wait for the truth and their money.